Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Taking the Supply Chain Pulse. I'm Megan with St. Company, and thanks for joining us. Our guest today is Matthew Mitchell, the Strategic Sourcing Program Director at Honor Health in Phoenix. With an impressive background spanning global supply chain operations, hospitality, and healthcare, Matthew shares insights shaped both by education and real-world experience in the industry. Now here's your host, Fred Kranz.
Before we started, you told me that it was a dreary day in Phoenix, and living here in Cleveland, I was secretly thinking, good, I'm glad. Because we get a lot of dreary days here, and you get very few.
So we had beautiful weather for the golf tournament, and now it is in the 60s and drizzling this afternoon. So
the the most raucous golf tournament in America, right?
200,000. Yeah, that's right.
Waste Management Phoenix Open, where they yell and boo and throw water bottles at the 16th hole when someone makes a really good shot. So very good. Let's talk a little bit about, you have an interesting background. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll ask you some more questions in case you leave anything out, okay?
Wonderful. Yeah, no, it is a unique journey to get to this point, and this role is certainly not common in the IDNs that I've had the chance to network with. I started doing work for the VA, had the opportunity to work in government, did a project in their outpatient dialysis, then the opportunity to work at Phoenix Children's Hospital, moved to, interestingly enough, hospitality is my next move. Worked for Hilton in Waldorf Astoria, helped manage capital, labor expenses for 7 luxury properties, and then relocated back to Phoenix. And now I manage capital at Honor Health, managing sort of that CapEx side instead of the labor side, but sort of the same butts and beds revenue structure. So a unique journey to get here, but adding value, and yeah, grateful for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Okay, well, your educational background is also quite unique. You did you start at ASU? So are you from Phoenix originally, or what?
Yes, sir. I am born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. I did go to ASU. I spent 9 years, eight and a half of my time at Arizona State. I did graduate with a couple degrees. Supply chain, international business, and computer science.
Yeah, I see some of these. I see, like, what is UTDT at Buenos Aires? Tell me about that.
UTDT is a university, the main university in Buenos Aires. I had the opportunity to study abroad for a month. That was part of my MBA program, studying international finance. The opportunity to travel with a cohort, see the Pink House, learn about inflation and currency manipulation, interestingly enough. But yeah, that's definitely a great experience that I got to share. I also went to ISAN in Peru. That's in Lima. And that was another opportunity to study international finance. That one was about giving indigenous people rights to their land so they could grow the economy and move out of textiles and into more of a capital society. So growing economy in Peru, not so much in Argentina, 2 different flavors, but yeah, definitely helped grow that finance background.
And what about Hong Kong Polytechnic University?
HKPU is another part of my story, and that was an undergraduate, and I had the opportunity to go study the shipping yards. I was very moved by the supply chain science and discipline. There's been a couple of key professors in my journey that have helped with that, and there was not an affiliate with ASU to go to Singapore, which is a larger port, but there was an affiliate to go to Hong Kong and study supply chain from Hong Kong and see the containers move in and out of the port into mainland China, or from mainland China and leave the port to Southeast Asia, America, Micronesia. It was a great opportunity. I spent over 6 months in Hong Kong.
Okay, so now that's just part of your educational background. And your work-related background, you were with Hilton Hotels, and there we have hospitality. That's pretty good. You also worked with Morgan Stanley,
That's correct.
and you were a lean analyst with the VA of Phoenix, and did a hazmat logistics thing at the Children's Hospital of Phoenix. You got a well-rounded perspective on a lot of things. So what directed you back to healthcare and made you want to do what you're doing now?
I love a challenge, and I love the opportunity because I see that there's opportunity in the healthcare space, and I think this is definitely related to the conference that I had the chance to meet you at, as well as the most recent one. But one of these influential people in my journey was Dr. Schneller, who was a professor at Arizona State. Part of the reason why I chose to get an MHA in addition to the MBA was there is an inelastic demand associated with healthcare. If you break your arm, you're going to go get it fixed, and you'll figure out the costs later. When we have these inelasticities, that's where opportunity exists for vendors to take advantage, but also for healthcare providers, hospitals, you name it, to again identify these opportunities for improvement, these opportunities to create savings and create value. So I saw the inelasticity, why I wanted to pursue sort of that healthcare supply chain.
Okay, for people who are not finance people, could you explain the term inelastic demand in terms that a regular average person could understand?
Absolutely. So the best example of inelastic demand that you'll probably get in school, or an easy analogy for the consumer to digest, it would be salt. If I need to go to the grocery store, I'm going to buy salt. I'm not going to be overly concerned if it's 69 cents or $1.34 or $2.99. I need salt on my pantry. I'm going to buy the salt. If I look at something that's a little more specialized, like, I don't know, your favorite dessert, a cannoli or tiramisu or something like that, and if it's $6.99 and on sale, I'll buy it. But if it's $34.99 because it's Valentine's Day and there's high demand for this product, I might say no, I don't need it right now. So there's elasticity, like a rubber band. It bends back and forth. Inelastic stuff is rigid. I'm going to have it. I don't care what it costs. I'm going to figure out where I need to cut to buy these products. And when it comes to humanity, and again, I use the example of breaking your arm, you're probably not going to walk around with a broken arm and wait for the opportune time to go to urgent care to get it fixed. You're probably going to go to urgent care and get it fixed and figure out how to pay for it later. So that's salt would be the best way to explain inelasticity. You're going to buy salt regardless of the price.
So with all this background in education, and you find yourself in and out of healthcare a few times, you told me before that there are very few places that have a job title and a function that is exactly like yours. Could you tell us what your job title entails, what areas you serve, and why so? Why not? Why doesn't everyone have one of you?
It is a great question, and certainly happy to continue the conversation with anybody that might follow up with you with regards to this podcast. But it is a large area of spend. For the most part, It is fractured how IDNs manage capital. There are IDNs that manage purchasing once a year, once a quarter. There's different policies and procedures around how to release funds, whether they're contingency funds, whether they're planned. At the end of the day, hospitals manage this very differently. I get the chance to sit at this most recent conference in New Orleans, and I heard Boston Children's, everything is considered contingency, and there's no allocation for service lines. There's no specific OR money or imaging money. And I've heard other people at Advent Health create a metric to assign some type of quantified score for every capital project. There's just a whole bunch of different ways to slice this pie, and I don't think there's an industry standard, which is kind of how this unique job got born. Honor Health is a growing IDN. When I first started, we were 5 hospitals. Now we're 9. Capital pool money that I spent in my first year was probably closer to 10, and now I'm spending anywhere from $60 million a year. So it is certainly a growing field, and obviously, if we're talking about managing percentage points and savings and standardizing, there should be an emphasis on capital management. So I don't see it going away. If anything, I see us, sort of leading the way and getting the opportunity to be out in front.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was at the same conference that you were just recently at, and I have been doing capital equipment management for now about 50 years. And when I started, I worked at a standalone community hospital. Systems hadn't really become a thing yet. So you had one hospital, and it was much simpler. But every year there was a grab bag. It was budget time, and we have this number. And a lot of times the number that people would use for capital was whatever their funded depreciation number was, because funded depreciation is a soft expense. It's not a hard hit against the, hard dollar hit. It's just a breakdown of everything, right? So everyone would go out and compete for whatever they could get. They try to leverage things, and you'd have one year where whatever doctors, and usually radiology was among the biggest as far as having influence, whatever meetings they'd been to, they'd come back with their wants, and a lot of times they would get them. And it occurred to me that I tried to break things down into clinical needs, non-clinical needs, contingency funds, actually providing for contingency funds. And then I tried to develop a plan for planned replacement of those items that eventually outdate. In fact, many times we would just wait until something broke and then figure out how to buy it. And I tried to get a plan in there. And then maybe by the 90s, the third evil chunk of money came in, and that was IT. And IT was something that couldn't be ignored. If you didn't keep it up to date, it failed. And yet what I have seen, and I'd like your opinion or your reaction to this. What I have seen, even at these meetings where the best of the best are there, it seems that in many respects, not that much has changed in 50 years. People are still out there without a real plan, building bigger and bigger IDNs, obtaining hospitals that have crumbling infrastructure, and not coming together with a plan. How is that what you saw, or is that what you see, and how do you go about trying to bring order to that?
I completely agree with you, Fred. The sort of structure is you're either maintaining, or you're growing, or you're getting bought.
Yeah.
This year might see some rural hospitals closing, depending on the current political environment. Reimbursement changes. We're certainly anticipating reimbursement going down. But yes, to your point, for the most part, we're still pretty fractured on how we manage the capital, and it is, in my opinion, the first knob on the mixing board that we can turn down if we're trying to make our financials look good. So always nervous in Q4 when those best deals show up, but at the same time, if there's no money left on the credit card, there's no deals to be had because the parent organization takes certainly priority over it. What we're really needing to get to is a state of proactive versus reactive management. Crumbling infrastructure is something that you identified. Honor Health recently acquired the 3 Steward hospitals in Arizona. It's public knowledge. And the patient hasn't had any capital or any love for the last 20 plus years. And so, it's going to shift sort of our priorities, our budgets to bring those along. As this dynamic changes, a couple of things I would add to it too. You talked about that dark horse IT. The new one, we've even created a subsection at Honor Health, is cybersecurity to maintain our patient data and the impact that any type of cyber attack could have on OR scheduling, the whole hospital for that matter. Cybersecurity is a huge, huge deal, but acute settings, reimbursement, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and ambulatory settings. Do we want to invest those dollars in that crumbling infrastructure, or do we want to do new builds in these enhanced urgent care ER models, sort of a mid-grade, to try to triage patients away from acute settings, but also still provide them a little more care than perhaps an urgent care. So I do see the dynamic changing. I do see, again, hospital infrastructure needing capital, but perhaps that those dollars are better allocated elsewhere. So
Before we dive back in, you may be asking yourself, is my supply chain future ready? At Sinaj Company, we don't just optimize logistics, we engineer smarter, leaner, and more resilient systems from end to end. From manufacturing to retail to healthcare, our experts bring decades of experience and cutting-edge strategies to transform your operations. Visit and discover how we're shaping the future of supply chain, one solution at a time.
Is the capital plan at your organization part of an overall, say, 5 to 10 year operational strategic plan so that they fit together?
That's correct. Particularly when we're talking about facilities and infrastructure, it is definitely a 5 to 10 year plan. From a ultrasound, anesthesia, we definitely are conscious of the depreciation schedules. With that being said, our good friends in the industry like to come out with new models every 5 years. So GAAP principles might tell me it's a 7-year depreciation, but I can count on. I'm not gonna name drop any vendors, but they're gonna come out with a version 2.0 in 5 years and 3.0 in 10 years. But I still got an extra couple of years of depreciation. But we'll get the doctors excited for it, and if you're going to be good planning for capital, you need to be aware that these asks are coming. You need to know when the iPhone 20 is going to come out so you can be prepared to retain physicians, retain top talent. That's part of the game as far as, again, is your IDN growing? Is it stagnant? Are you about to be bought up? And so robots go ahead.
I'm sorry. So what are your big customer challenges, both inside customers and the pressure from outside, say, manufacturers on those inside customers that ends up in your lap?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've got internal and external customers. That's how I like to sort of classify them. My internal customers, in my role in supply chain, I triage between the very gray side of operations, the clinicians, and the black and white side of finance, and sort of bridging that gap. So finance is a big internal customer. How do we pay for it? There's different vehicles to pay for it, whether that's leasing, whether that's placement. A lot of these large vendors have their own capital structure now. and can offer better financing than some of the big traditional banks. We've got a couple of 0% deals that they have made larger purchases attractive. Other internal customers include IT that we talked about. Biomed is going to be a huge internal customer. This is the asset management. This is the how do we record how many anesthesia units we have, how many OR tables we have, how many microscopes we have. So in conjunction with them. Construction we talked about, which is big. Purchasing is a big internal customer. What do we need to execute quickly? If we do this great job of satisfying our clinicians of getting the new whatever, how do we execute quickly? How do we navigate this so we're not bogged down in policy and it takes 6 months to cut a purchase order? But how do we have the flexibility to be nimble and reactive to the situation, not just say, I'm sorry, it's not July, we're not buying anything. That's not that's not going to work for some egos. That's not going to work for some operations. If we're losing money because we failed to spend money, or there's a policy in place saying we can't do that, we need to be more flexible. We need to be more agile. The environment is constantly changing. Doctors will walk across the street and take their ball over the yard to the new hospital to get what they want. And so appealing to the internal customers is really important. So your clinicians internally, finance, biomed, Honor Health has a couple of other arms that some other hospitals don't have, including the foundation and military partnership. Like I said, construction, IT, purchasing. There's a handful of internal customers that need help navigating the capital process. And if we're flexible, if we're agile, we can make all those people's lives easier. Employment satisfaction, physician satisfaction, all these are benchmark scores to create a happy, work environment.
Well, with your background, which is, I'm really impressed with the diversity of your background, quite honestly, because capital is a complicated problem because, among other things, you have two places that money ends up in an organization. If something is purely capital, it becomes an asset and it gets depreciated and it doesn't show up in your profit and loss, your operating budget. But if you have some stuff out there that you don't know is going to be around in 5 years, maybe leasing it and putting it in the operating budget side is a better strategy. So tell me how you work with the clinicians and with finance and with leadership to make those types of decisions about not only if you should get something, but where it should be placed in the operating versus the capital arenas.
Yeah, sure, you bet. This one hits my desk a lot. When we're talking about 7-figure projects, $1 million plus projects, it's really important to understand all the angles of the chessboard. If you're working with finance, when you work with finance, better stated, what's the cash flow of the organization? Is it the right time to buy something that's that large? Robots are sort of the wave of the future without naming any individual companies. There are several that have orthopedic, thoracic, urology, spine robots. These are huge assets. These are huge capital investments, and they absolutely need to be considered in all spaces. The biggest player in the robot space has changed their model faster than we can depreciate it. So, if you can't depreciate it, or that your primary physician group is going to want the newest, greatest, and latest, it doesn't do you any good to own these old cars. If they constantly want the newest technology, if that's part of the physician recruitment strategy, maintaining lease structures that gives you the flexibility to get out and maintain the newest makes you attractive as an organization if that's part of your strategy. So When the technology curve is steep, as in, an iPhone comes out every year, that's what I mean by technology curve is steep. You typically want to lease that stuff. If the technology curve is long and the product doesn't change, that's the stuff you kind of want to own. So in between there, again, cash position of the organization, what's the cash flow? We can explore placement deals. If I use so many supplies, you'll give me the robot, you'll give me the product. It's a way to grow market share for some of these vendors. We guarantee that we're going to use so many catheters in the cath lab, and you're going to give us these generators in exchange for that. There's a risk, obviously, but if you're confident in your analytics, which is, again, working with your internal customers, that's a great way to expand your capital portfolio without necessarily using that cash on hand. So,
Yeah, the further we go in this discussion, the more complicated things become when you think of it. And I was thinking, you brought up the iPhone. They come out with one every year, whether you need it or not, right?
correct.
And you look at me, I'm an old guy. And I can't be sitting there going, well, geez, I have what do I have? I have a 16. And I think I got the 16 about 2 weeks after it came out. I had like a 12 before that. Okay. And I'm still doing the same functions with it that I was doing with the 12. I am not taking advantage of all the possible utilization capabilities of the tools I've acquired. And I would ask you, do you ever do any follow-up to see how well these folks are actually using the totality of the new technology they've acquired? Because I would bet that much of what they get, they use transactionally to get done what they wanted to get done, and they're missing out on the opportunity for optimization. Is that fair or not?
100%. It's absolutely fair. One of the things that we do is lookbacks, and we track through dashboards utilization. Thank you for coming and proposing the new. Yeah, I'm not going to poke holes because there's several spine robots out there, so I'm not going to poke holes at any particular one. But we brought this $2.5 million case, and we might not be utilizing it as much as we thought we were going to. So how can we either relocate the asset? How can we better use block scheduling? How can we free up more time? How can we educate the physicians that we have? There's a lot of different sort of mechanisms in that capacity to look back. But yes, without question, something that we do for the larger capital purchases was this. And then to purchase, as far as making that capital decision, we go through finance and, what are our best guess estimated cases? What's the contribution? What's the contribution mix? What's the payer mix? What are we likely to see? Inpatient, acute setting, could be outpatient. Just depends what we're talking about. But yeah, we definitely do analytics on the front end and on the back end, particularly if we're talking about buying new stuff.
But if I were to characterize your role in terms that a barmaid could understand, I would say that your job is to simplify complexity.
100%.
Is that fair?
100%.
And if I were just a kid coming out of Eugene Schneller's ASU program, the W.P. Carey School, and I showed up at your door and said, "Hey, Matthew, I've heard about this capital equipment stuff. I'm interested in getting involved." What would you tell me?
It's a great opportunity. I would solicit Arizona State. I'm partial. I'm a Sun Devil, as I said earlier. 9 years of my life as a Sun Devil. So you're not gonna find me talking bad about Dr. Schneller or the business program. With that being said, yeah, it's again, I do think, at least for me, and I can't speak to anybody else, but for me, I saw this as an opportunity, a landscape that wasn't going to change, and an opportunity to add value to some organization. Capital is in a healthcare setting. It is an easy priority to move to help the overall finances of the organization. If you go back in my work history, perhaps it is more important in other industries, and they look at other opportunities to save the money. So, in hospitality, if it's not a new shiny hotel, I'm just slowly driving my product into the ground, and I'd be better to manage the people that didn't clock out for lunches. When I worked at when I worked at one of the hotels here in Phoenix, one of the Waldorfs here, 1 week of missed lunches of the housekeeping department was over $30,000 of payroll.
Wow.
And that's substantial. That's tangible. That's tangible dollars. And so, again, adding that value is no different than doing a bulk deal on microscopes, for example. If I'm buying 3 of these Canevo 900S $1 million microscopes, I can save some money, and those are tangible dollars. Now, in the space of capital, and this one's really important, and we certainly talk about this, or have talked about it, better stated, at the conference, it's not savings, it's cost avoidance. Right. If you've allocated a budget for capital and I save $500,000, that just means I have $500,000 to go spend on something else. That doesn't mean I'm putting it in my back pocket. So
that's a very important point, because every year you have to spend the capital budget completely. So, and the better you can utilize that, the more things you can bring into reality that may not have made the cut. Is that fair?
It is 100% fair. Last year, my Santa's wish list was over $300 million, and 1 out of 5 kids got Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if the doctors were writing the checks, maybe 1 out of 8 kids would have got Christmas presents. So the ability to manage that capital pool stretches the dollar, serves more purposes, serves more priorities. Excuse me.
Well, Matthew, thanks for giving us your insights. Any parting shot you want to leave us with? No,
I'm enjoying the cold, rainy day here in Phoenix, Arizona, despite the weather. This has been great. So
thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Fred.
Take care.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and connect with us online so you'll never miss an episode and can catch up on all the ones you might have missed. Got a topic you're fired up about, or maybe you want to be a guest on the show? Fred would love to hear from you. Just reach out at fcrans@stonge.com. We'll see you next time.